Hi there, Crystal Thompson here for Color Comes with Crystal. We are finishing up the month with another awesome purpley color combination. For today's card, we're doing some background stamp heat embossing layers using a really cool Unity Stamp Company background and some die cuts. For this card, we're going to be using some white cardstocks and the awesome botanical background stamp. This is a collaboration with Brutus Monroe, so it's an oldie but a goodie one. I have a couple of die cuts. I like to keep all my die cut scraps, so I have some zigzags. You can use whatever shapes you like, such as little borders, or you can even create just strips of little cardstocks. And so we're going to begin by inking up our botanical background stamp set, and I love this red rubber because it's so thick and so awesome. I'm inking it up with some heat embossing ink. I'm going to bring in my white cardstock 4 1/4, 5 1/2. I pre-cut it. I'm going to give it a nice little massage there, make sure that I cover the entire cardstock. And what's really cool about background stamps that you don't actually need any blocks or any stamp positioners. And you can see we're going to be using some clear or white embossing powder. And so I'm going to add that embossing powder. And I know it's hard white on white to see, but it's going to pop up. It's going to be kind of like a reveal coloring once we add our ink blending. So I'm going to cover it up with all these embossing powder. We're going to heat set it, set that aside. And then we're going to bring in, again, my die cuts that I had mentioned earlier. I'm going to ink up the stamp. Going to bring in the thanks, and this is from Altenew, but like I said, you can use any die cuts. And if you have a die cutting machine, electronics such as a Cricut or Silhouette, you can use the fonts in your computer to create some really cool sentiments such as thanks or hello. We're going to stamp down that botanical background, and then using some of this clear heat embossing powder, we're going to heat set that. And you can even do some heat embossing on the strips. So as I mentioned, I have some zigzag die cuts here. If you don't have any particular shape, you can just do some stripes. Just cut them out of the white cardstock to be about the same length as your card. We're going to cover those with the same clear embossing powder. I've heat set the entire thing, so we are ready to do ink blending. So for this, we're going to be using the wilted violet and the seedless preserves. And I'm going to begin with the seedless preserves right in the center. It's a little more pink and not so much purpley. And as you can see, the roses from that botanical background are popping up. So it's, like I said, a color reveal, bringing in wilted violet onto the edges. And I'm going to not focus on the blending too much just because I really want to make sure that I saturate my cardstock here. I have fast forwarded just a couple seconds so you can see an actual process without having to wait 10 minutes for me to blend the card. So I did use clear heat embossing powder for this, which is really neat because the cardstock's white, so it's going to be white. And by doing so, it is going to allow us to use the same heat embossing powder for black cardstock or white cardstock, whatever it is that we're doing. I'm going to use the same colors for the little zigzag die cuts that I have. And I'm going to use the same brush. I'm not going to change out brushes, and I'm going to add some of that color, and I'm alternating with that wilted violet on the edges or in the center. And this is going to be kind of like a little decoration for the card, and we're going to layer all these cool pieces. So once that's done, I'm going to bring in a dry cloth, and I usually forget to cover up all my baby wipes. So that's what this is. This is a dried up baby wipe. Use something that's lint free, and I'm going to clean off all the excess of the ink blending, as you can see how those really cool florals pop up. Now that everything's heat embossed and ink blended, we're going to begin by putting our card together. So I have that thanks ready to go. I'm going to bring in my liquid mono adhesive, and if I would have had some clear roller, I would have used it, but I didn't. I ran out. So I'm just going to use some clear glue and adding it to the bottom center parts of this thanks. Gonna add that zigzag right on the center, and what this is gonna do, it's going to really allow it to, it's gonna give it a little more shape to it. It's not gonna be so flimsy, and two, it's gonna make it easier to attach it. So I'm gonna add some of that foam, and again, hindsight, if I would have had some clear roller adhesive, I would have used that instead of the liquid. That way my zigzag doesn't move on my thanks. We're gonna remove that backing on those foams, and I ended up cutting those in half just because, you know, we want to utilize what we got. I'm going to place that thanks right on the center. And as you can see, it made it really easy because the whole thing attached to that bottom part. We're going to add some more of this clear glue to that zigzag. And these are going to go on the bottom, on the lower level of that thanks. And again, it's just going to give it a little bit of dimension and really coordinate the whole purple and pink ink blending. We're going to add another piece of that zigzag. I'm going to bring in my S and press that down. And last but not least, we are going to be embellishing with some black Nouveau drops. And as you can see here, we have that clear heat embossing that turned white with that blended. And then on the thanks, you can see the clear heat embossing, and it just gives it a little dimension to that thanks. And the whole thing comes up really nicely, and I'm really loving this color combination. I loved it so much that we used it all stinking month, right? And guys, that does it for me. Thank you so much for joining me for the entire month of October, where we have used the same color combinations and different Unity Stamp Company supplies to make coordinated cards. I hope you've enjoyed the tutorials. Leave me a comment down below. All products are listed down below as well. And if you're new to the channel, be sure to give this video a like, a comment, and please click subscribe to support my channel and cards. We'll see you guys later. Happy October. We'll see you guys in November.